Okay, fine. So what I was explaining earlier was that we came up with these three APIs. These are individual components of our software: appointments API, doctor API, and patient API. And then the fourth component we have is the front end, which actually is the consumer of these APIs, right? So it's a front end. So all our clients, all the actual customers, when they come to the application, they will always access the front end, the React based front end, and then the front end actually makes a call to these APIs. Okay, so what we are right now doing is the backend, and the consumer of these backends, consumer means a component which access, which consumes, which reads, which calls these APIs, right? That is what is consumer is. So consumer here is our front end, and that calls our backends, these APIs. And even for in this case, our it always mostly calls appointment to book the appointment. Appointment API is what front end calls, and then appointment API in actually go and make a call to doctor API and patient API to get the information about doctor and patient. Okay, so this is the model which we are following. Okay, and the last time what we did, we just to summarize, we had this important method which we create appointment. And the create appointment, we whenever a customer or whenever a client calls this API for creation of a new appointment, it will always first go and check for the patient. If the patient exists, then it go and check with the doctor. The doctor exists, and this is where we are actually making the backend call to the actual doctor and patient API, which is we are doing here using REST template. Okay, so this is what we actually learned last time. Okay, I made few changes in this API since the last time we checked. Okay, not in terms of functionality, rather one change also I made, which I want to highlight. So this is another check I have done. So I have made a check for the patient exists, doctor exists. These two checks we made. I added another one, which is doctor free at this time? Okay, and in this I added this to showcase something important in Spring Boot query language, which is if you go and see this method is actually calling something called as, go here, this method, it's calling this method find all doctor appointment with conditions. And inside this I have created a method. So this is my appointment repository. Okay, and here I'm not making use of default query, I'm making use of my user defined query. So I have added, so this is a concept of JPA repository. Okay, so JPA repository, if you see, we have so many methods available here, right? And these methods here, as well as you will also find few here, find all, etc. Okay, find by ID, find exist by ID. Now all these methods signifies a query which it automatically generates. Okay, and we mostly use of it, we mostly make use of it. It provides very good method mapping with the queries, and we don't, so that you don't have to write your own queries. That is a use case for this. But sometimes you do have to write your own query. Sometimes you are not satisfied with what you are getting from JPA repository, and you may have to go and write your own queries. And when that is the case, then you can actually go and write your own queries and associate that query with your method. So for example, in this case, you had to write a conditional query wherein you need to say, hey, I want to find all doctor appointment with specific condition. And that condition is, if the doctor appointment has this date and this time, appointment time and appointment till, if it's falling within the same period, same duration, then return a list of all such appointments. That is what I'm trying to say here. So I'm saying select C from this, where doctor email is this and appointment date is this and appointment time is between the from and to until. Okay, and this is what so if you see question mark 1, these means parameters. So basically 1 means it will be replaced by doctor email, 2 means it will be replaced by appointment date, 3 means third argument, 4th means the fourth argument. So this is what I have. There's different ways of writing this out also, but this is just one of the way of how you can really write such custom defined or user defined queries or custom queries. This, you may not have seen this before, whatever you have learned so far. This wasn't something which I explained. We always relied on methods. If you see, for example, even in the appointment service, I'm saying repository.save, and the save means what? Save is here means this method coming from CRUD repository, which is there with our appointment repository itself, right? So if I go one level up and one level up and one level up, I get this. Okay, so this is what is being called, and internally this is converted into an actual query, which is an insert statement or insert query. So we don't really have to write the queries until it is required for us to write it. So in this case, if I go here, in this case, I wanted to find something with a specific condition greater than and smaller than, or something combining things, blah blah. And when you have to do such kind of things, then you have to go and write queries, and you can use @query method to do that. All you have to do is to just add a method description, method signature, not the actual implementation, just the method name, what it returns, and the what query you want to fire to the database. Okay, this is what how you actually go and use this feature of Spring Boot or JPA repository. Okay, fine. And this is what I've been using. I've been using here. Okay, so this is one change I made. There is more checks I can do, right? Remember, last time I told you that I expect you guys to add those changes, but I'm not sure if anyone of you have tried this. But before creating an appointment, there are a few conditions you need to first go and check. These are rules. So rule is that if before you create an appointment, you need to check few things first, right? You cannot just go and create appointment. So what kind of checks you can do? Does patient exist? Does doctor exist? These are basic changes we did. I added one more. Is doctor free at this time? Because if there is a patient, a doctor booking is already there for the duration, it shouldn't show it as yeah, you can book, you shouldn't be able to book. Then same thing goes with patient. I can write another one for patient. If patient has an existing appointment during this time, then also it shouldn't be allowed. Okay, I can also say another check which is there in the doctor API, which is the doctor's availability. If I go and see here, is doctor available, is a check here, right? I can also go and check that before I do a book appointment, I need to first go and check in the doctor API that is doctor available. Is doctor available, present on that day where the booking is happening? So that check also I can do, right? So these are the kind of checks you will have to first do before you allow appointment booking. Okay, so this is basically how you achieve it. So these are called as rules which you have to put, and this can have 5 or 6 rules before you can allow appointment booking. Okay, this I expect from you guys to do. I expect that you put in more rules here based on your understanding of it. Only that is the only way you can learn. You cannot learn anything just by watching this. Okay, I told this plenty of times in the past. So you have to try this on your own. If you don't try this, you will not get it for sure. And the more delay you do in trying this, the more difficult it would become for you to really understand what's happening. Anyway, so this is something which you have to create. I have also not deliberately put anything in the other endpoint. So put, I expect you guys to create. Delete, I expect you guys to put. There's no rocket science in both of these. Update and delete, you can try doing on your own. Okay, it just saves statements, nothing else. You can take a reference from the previous ones which we did. Even the employee we tried doing, you can take reference from there also. Okay, fine. So this is what we have done, these 3 APIs. Now we are actually, today's agenda is to showcase how we build the software and how we deploy it and where we deploy it, so that the actual app can be accessed by the customer. Now, right, as of now, we don't have a front end, fine, but we do have backends, and we need to find a way to properly build this, test this, and deploy this somewhere. Okay, but before we actually do it, we first need to see whether it works properly on our local machine. Okay, Now we have done that, right? From your IDE, I have tried doing this. IDE, I can run this separately. I can run this here. I can run this these statements here, these classes and methods here, and I can run my application and test it. Okay. But that's not what I want. I want to make sure that my application runs properly on my local machine in a Dockerized format, right? Because if you remember, Docker is what we learned, right? These applications are actually jar files. So when I have these class files written here, I will compile this. When I compile this, then it gets converted into jar, something like these, right? And these jar files are actually your executables, which actually runs. But I do not run jar files directly. Remember, I do not run jar files directly. I actually have to wrap it around a virtual machine, a sort of a machine which inside which I will have this app running. And that virtual machine is nothing but your Docker image. And that Docker image you have to send somewhere where it gets stored, and then from there someone can download it and run it. Okay, so we have to actually achieve that. We have to go in that direction. So now, for now, what you have is app.jar, but I need to see whether once I convert these into Docker images, um, I need to see whether they work together properly or not, because I need to eventually see whether they together work or not in a Dockerized format, right? So to do that, we have something called as Docker Compose, which I've been talking about earlier in the past, and today we'll see how we use it. Okay, and Docker Compose is a way by which you can run multiple containers together as a single application. Okay, so I can have a Docker image and I can run that Docker image using Docker run, but that Docker run will only run just one container. But I don't want to do that because I have three APIs and all three APIs are Dockerized in its own sense, and I need to make sure that all three, when I try to spawn all of these together, they work together. Okay, so that is basically is my goal. How I do that, I have already talked about this in the past, guys. I'll repeat so that my repetition, gets deeper into your memory. Okay. Um, Ashwin, any question? Okay. Sorry, I saw mic unmuted. Fine. Okay. And no question. Then I'll continue.
Sir, in that actually.
Yeah, go on. Go on.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in the doctor file, in doctor API,
Uh-huh.
in doctor API, we have a doctor one file, doctor file.
Uh-huh.
So in that, nullable equals to false means it is setting the default. What exactly?
No, nullable means here that this value can be null. Okay,
Okay, so I start defaultly.
if I say nullable is equal to true, that means this name can be a null value. That means if someone doesn't send any value, the value of this automatically in the database will set as null. But I'm saying false. That means name cannot be null. If someone is not sending name, I will throw an error.
Okay.
That is what it means basically. So what is the most important fields here? I want, when I register a doctor, I need his name for sure. So I will always say for nullable. I need his registration ID. I will say it false because I always need it. If someone doesn't send it, I will always have to have it. Else I will throw error. Qualifications, I need it. Specialization, I need it. Experience in years, I need it. Email ID, I need it. Clinic name and address, maybe I don't need it in the beginning, so I will say true. That means if someone doesn't send a clinic name and address, I will allow it. Maybe it can change, can be changed later. Does it allow home visit, doctor? I can say true. That means if he says or doesn't say, I'm also fine. Okay, same way I can go through here. So these are used to check, to validate, as a validation of the data. So before I get it and I submit this somewhere, I need to go and I can put that check directly here. The validation checks basically. This is what is used for.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So I will come back here. So appointments API, doctor API, patient API. These are Dockerized applications. and I need to make sure whether they run properly together or not. So I will go one by one again to their Docker files. So I have one Docker file here for appointments API. If I go to appointments API, which is this one, I get to see multi-stage Docker file. So this is called as multi-stage Docker file. So I have two stages here. One stage is this, second stage is this. Okay, so it starts from a keyword called as from. Each stage starts from a keyword called as from, and from means what base image I need to build this. So base image means a machine, already existing machine having some software. Okay, so here I am saying I need a machine with Maven and JDK in it. Okay, and once I get that, on top of it, I will copy my pom.xml file. I copy my source. So this pom.xml file gets copied, the source gets copied, appointments API gets copied, doctor API. These folders are getting copied into this machine. And then run, as you know what run is. Run means you're running something, a command. I'm running Maven dependency go offline command. This will download all the dependencies. And then I am saying run Maven clean package to download and to build everything here. I will run. Guys, just give me a minute. Okay, so we have this segment. This is responsible for downloading the Maven dependency. This is where we build our software, our that specific component Spring Boot app. And once it's built, it stores information in the target, right? So when you build something, when you say Maven clean install here, it builds it. Basically, it builds your project under the target, and you get app.jar. A jar file is what you get. Then what you're saying on top of this, you say from again. So you're again building using another image. So here you're downloading it from GCR.io distroless Java. So you want a Java environment only, and from there you're copying from Maven toolchain cache. So this is your Maven toolchain cache, this one. So you're saying copy whatever was generated from this image and whatever happened in this image, download from there. So copy, build appointments API target. So build appointments API, okay, and target. So build is this, appointment API is this, and target. Inside this you will have a target folder, and copy that and save it in the root. So this single slash means save it in the root. So it's saying from here, that is this one, from this, copy this from here. Copy what? Copy this folder path. So build is this, appointment API is this, and target is this, which automatically gets generated inside once you run this command, and then copy that here. Okay, and then that's it. And then simple entry point will be as java jar app.jar. Entry point here means as soon as this image gets converted into a container, this command will automatically run. That is what is entry point is. So after I run this file, all I would get is an image. It won't run. All I get is it will just build things, copy things from target to here and there, and copy things here and there, and then that's it. This line will not run. Then as soon as I say run create a container from this image, then this line will run, and this line will run our application, which is this one, appointments API, which gets converted into app inside already. And all I would say entry point java -jar app.jar, and this will just run. And that's how my image gets converted into container. That's how container run my application. So I explained this Docker file. I'm not expecting you guys to memorize all this. I explained this so that I can, to some extent, I can explain what this file is, what is the lines present here in this Docker file. Okay, I sent you a link already, I think 2-3 weeks back. It's called as Docker curriculum.org or .com or something. It has all the details which you ever need for understanding these kind of things, but you really don't have to worry too much about what is this. Okay, it's good that you know, you should know what this is used for, etc., but you don't really have to at this moment memorize any of these things. Okay, you just need to know that what these lines are. Even if you do not 100% sure on what is this, it's still fine. Okay, and these kind of files I have written for all three. I've written one for doctor API, I've written one for patient API, and they look exactly the same except just one change. So each of these files, only one line is changed. So if it's patient API, this line is the only difference. If it's doctor API, this line is the only difference. If it's appointments docker file, this line is the only difference, where I've just changed the values. Okay, fine. Next thing is, I've already told how you build your software, right? So to build, for building the software, you need three things, or rather actually two commands. One command is docker build, which you know already. So you know already docker build is used for what? You say docker build, and then you have to mention file name. So docker build -f, file name as patient dot patient API dot docker file, right? Something like this. And then you put a tag that I would want to tag this. Tag simply means the location of where you want to keep it, and then some versioning. I'll show you that in a while, and that is how tag is created. So I'll not do that because I've already done that many times in the past. So I'll not do that. I'll just show you the documented commands which I have. So I have created something called as app-build.sh file. This is a shell file. You don't have to worry about shell file, what is shell file, etc. This only works in Linux and Mac kind of OS, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll just show you what these three commands are. So I have docker build -f appointments docker file -t tag appointments -api latest, right? This is my tag. Okay. This is, of course, this is the name of my image, and this is actually the tag, the versioning part of it. But this command only is for my local Docker instance, right? So it will not go and save anywhere else. It is just for my local. Now, if you want to push it to a specific location, let's say I'm using Docker Hub, then I have to change this, right? I have to change this tag. So what I do, I will say Docker, and then I need to go where I will need to go to my, let me open that Docker Hub again for you, which is this one. And here I will say .com, and I'll say Docker Hub, and this is where I want to push my changes. Okay, this is where I want to put my things. Okay, so I have to first go and create these repositories here. So I have created 3 repositories for each of my API: patient API, appointment API, doctor API. If I go here, this is what I need to tag my APIs with. Okay, so 3334743 appointments API is what I need to put. Otherwise, that will not come here. Okay, and I can also put something like this. I can say docker-io 333743, this. And when I do this, and then after this, if I say docker push, then it will go and get automatically pushed here inside my repository. Okay, let's give it a quick try for one. Right now I don't have other tags. I have just, for example, appointments API, I have just one latest tag. So I will just give it a try. I will say, I'll copy this. Oh, not doctor, actually it was supposed to be docker. Docker IO means that I want to do this on Docker Hub. So the registry URL for that is docker IO. Okay, and I think I can show you something, that thing here. So you say docker info, and you get something like this here. So this is the registry URL. For short, I can say docker.io also for this one. Okay, this gives you information about what kind of Docker is installed in your machine. Okay, then I will simply say run this command here. Okay, I will say docker build -f appointments.docker file -t docker io, and this time instead of latest I will say let's say version 1 or something, version 123, and I run this, and this will build my Docker. And what it is doing internally, I already told you. It is first doing this. You see, it is now running Maven dependency go offline command, right? This is the command it's running. You see exactly the same command which I've written here, it's running them. Now it is doing Maven dependency go offline, so it is downloading all the dependencies. and then it will run this command. This will actually build my software, and then I will say docker push. Let's see quickly. Okay, meanwhile, I'll open something which I was referring to earlier. So I will open gitlab.com, because now I don't want to do this from my machine. Okay, I want a software, another software called, also called as continuous integration, continuous delivery software. And for me, that is GitLab. So my whole source code is in GitLab. And what I want is, as soon as a change comes in my repository, then automatically I want to run these commands. That means I want to build it and I want to push it. So I will, for now, I will just show you how to push it. So I'll say docker push, and I will say docker push this. I hope this works. Okay, so whatever it's happening here, I don't want to do this manually, guys. Okay, I want to do it via continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. It's called as pipeline. Fine. Now in GitLab, you have something called as gitlab YAML file, gitlab -ci YAML file, which is this one. Okay, and here we have some instructions. Okay, let me explain this file quickly, and then I will talk more. So here what I'm doing is, I have some, this is a YAML file. You already know what is YAML file. You have seen how a YAML file looks like. In YAML file, we have key value pair, and we can manage our objects also. And this is how you express the configurations. Any YAML file you will see anywhere, it's mostly is always used for expressing the requirement. In this case, I am expressing my CI/CD job requirement via YAML file. So I'm saying image as Docker is this. This is required by GitLab to run my jobs. Okay, whatever things, whatever instructions I want GitLab to do, it will try to do that under Docker image. Okay, this is Docker. I can show you guys. Any question? Redmi, Redmi, you have any question? Okay, I'm putting you on mute.
Sir,
Yeah, yes, Ashwini.
sir, we have tried this all by our own.
You have tried GitLab already?
No, no, sir. No YML file. We have tried this by ourselves.
Ashwini, I'm not getting your question. क्या पूछ रहे हो आप क्या कि
YML file, I have to write this all.
yes,
This one.
you have to. I mean, you will get the template from here. So जैसे कोई भी नई फाइल आपकी आएगी, right? For example, if आपका जब project GitLab पे आ जाएगा, for example, if your project is on GitLab, okay, any project. So if I go and create a project, I go to new project, create a blank project, and okay, so यहाँ पे एक option होगा setup CI/CD. Okay, you click on this one, configure pipeline, then आपका already यहाँ पे template मिल जाएगा आपको.
YML file का रहता है.
हाँ, हाँ.
Okay. हाँ.
Template मिल जाएगा, and then you can modify this template
According to my project.
according to your project.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so that's what I have done here. So I have done here what? Because I know how this will work, correct? तो मुझे क्या करना था? I want to build my Docker images. जो मैं अभी local कर रहा था, whatever I'm doing locally. See, the image is pushed now. I can quickly go and validate this. So now there was only latest, and if I refresh this, I get this version also, which I just built. Okay, I got this here. And मैं ये बार बार locally नहीं करना चाहता. I don't want to do this locally every time I make a change, क्योंकि जब भी आप नया change करोगे, वो आपका नया version of the application, and then you have to push it again, you have to build it again, you have to push it again. I don't want to do this because this is time consuming and manual. So I want another tool to do this for me, and that same tool where I am keeping my source code. तो मेरा जो source code जो मैं आपको भी दिखा रहा हूँ यहाँ पर अपॉइंटमेंट API, ये सब already it is already present here. All this source code is already present under this repository, Doctor Everywhere reference app, right? This सारी यहाँ सारी मेरी डॉकर फाइल वगैरह सब कुछ यहीं पर रखी हुई है, ओके और यहीं पर मैंने अपनी CI/CD की पाइपलाइन भी क्रिएट की हुई है. एंड हाउ टू क्रिएट दैट CI/CD पाइपलाइन? All you have to do is to add a file named as .gitlab-ci.yaml, and then it will look like this. Okay, so I'm actually explaining what is the content of this file at the moment. ठीक है, फाइल में क्या है? So first of all, you have to put an image. आपको एक इमेज लिखनी है ऊपर, because GitLab also runs on Docker. GitLab खुद भी डॉकर में ही चलता है. तो अगर आपको ऐसी कोई चीज़ करनी है आपके सॉफ्टवेयर में जिसमें कि डॉकर इन्वॉल्व है, and you have to create a Docker image of your software, then you have to do something like this. So you have to say image, किस image में GitLab वो run करेगा. तो GitLab एक Docker नाम का एक image download करेगा and it will spin it up. It's called as Docker dind. Dind means Docker in Docker. Docker in Docker. Dind Docker in Docker. So this means it is trying to run Docker inside another Docker container, which actually go and build and run these commands. Okay, see, these concepts can be bit complex at the moment. सारा समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, still is okay. करना कैसे वो सीखना जरूरी है, स्टेप सीखना जरूरी है. एक एक लाइन क्या हो रहा है वो अगर लाइन नहीं समझ में आ रही है, still is okay for now. Later तो आ ही जाएगा धीरे धीरे, बट उस लाइन को समझ में नहीं आ रही है, आगे कर ही नहीं रहे, that is a problem. वो नहीं करना है. Okay, you will not understand everything, each and everything in a single day. Okay, but you have to understand how the process is more important than an individual concept here. ठीक है, तो एंड टू एंड प्रोसेस कैसे हो रहा है, क्यों कर रहे हैं, वो कॉन्सेप्चुअली समझ में आना चाहिए कि क्यों कर रहे हैं, why we are doing this. Okay, and what is the process of doing this. These two things are more important than individual words and lines. Remember this. So you have image Docker, then you have these two lines are important. You have to put it, otherwise your pipeline will not run. Simple. Then before script means इसके अंदर वो सारी लाइंस आती हैं जो आपको एग्जीक्यूट करनी है बिफोर एनीथिंग हैपन्स. सो आई एम सेइंग बिफोर स्क्रिप्ट इज डॉकर इन्फो. तो मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ केवल कि जब मैंने ये लाइन ऐड किया तो डॉकर की इन्फॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल थी क्या, जो मैंने लोकल रन करके दिखाया था अभी थोड़ी देर पहले. सो मैंने ऐसे डॉकर इन्फो, इट वैलिडेट्स कि हाँ यार ये डॉकर मुझे अवेलेबल है अभी. So it will be, these two things will give you an environment exactly as your local machine. If you don't do this, then it won't work. If you do this, then Docker software local पे तो आपके Docker desktop installed है, वहाँ से Docker build हो जाता है. पर जब आप पाइपलाइन में कर रहे हो यहाँ पर, तो यहाँ तो कुछ इंस्टॉल्ड नहीं है, तो यहाँ पर आपको ये चीज़ें डालनी पड़ेगी ताकि Docker daemon, Docker process मिल जाए आपको. ये दो चीज़ Docker process प्रोवाइड करते हैं पाइपलाइन को. Once you get this, then you have to define your stages. Stages मतलब क्या होता है? स्टेप बाय स्टेप प्रोसेस आपके बिल्ड का. ओके, सो आई एम सेइंग आई हैव 3 स्टेजेस: बिल्ड, टेस्ट एंड डिप्लॉय. आज आई विल ओनली टॉक अबाउट बिल्ड. I will not talk about test, I will not talk about deploy, but these are the important stages in a proper continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment pipeline. जो pipeline होती है वो series of steps होती है जिसमें कि as soon as a developer puts something in the code, it automatically gets built, automatically gets tested and automatically gets deployed. A simple example of CI/CD. Okay, मेरा Amazon.com का ऐप है. रिक्वायरमेंट आया किसी से कि मुझे इसमें एक प्रोडक्ट और ऐड करना है. ओके, ना वो प्रोडक्ट ऐड कौन करेगा, बैकएंड से ही होगा, डेवलपर ही करेगा. डेवलपर कम्स, डेवलपर ने प्रोडक्ट ऐड किया. अब वो जब मैं प्रोडक्ट ऐड करूंगा, इट कैन हैव मैनी प्रॉब्लम्स. द मोमेंट आई ऐड अ प्रोडक्ट, इट कुड ब्रेक अदर थिंग्स, जो कि सॉफ्टवेयर में बहुत मोस्टली होता रहता है. यू मेक चेंज समवेयर, समथिंग एल्स ब्रेक्स, something else stops working, so you cannot just do it, so you have to put some test also, right? So as a series of steps your application has to go through. So developer will make a change, then you will run some unit test, then you will run some contract test, then you will some integration test, some component test, some security test, then you deploy it into a development environment where some more testing will happen, then you deploy it in some other environment, some more testing will happen, and then eventually it will gets deployed to a production URL. Production URL is the place जहाँ पे end customer उसको देख सकता है. So एक छोटा चेंज, एक छोटा लिंक, एक छोटी लाइन, एक छोटा बटन टेक्स ऑल दिस प्रोसेस. अब ये सारा प्रोसेस अगर मैं मैनुअली करूं, मैनुअल इन द सेंस एक एक बंदा उस सॉफ्टवेयर को उठाए, उसको कहीं डाले. If someone manually does this, it takes lot of time. Okay, and time is the key in the market. कि अगर एक नया प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च हुआ है and Flipkart launches it first before Amazon, Flipkart can sell it more, right? So you cannot afford to have delay. You want speed in deployments. You need speed, and that is what CI/CD pipeline gives you. That means everything, all the only thing is developer has to write things on his local, because वो तो automate नहीं हो सकता, वो तो manually करना ही पड़ेगा. क्या requirement है, developer इसको लिखेगा, and developer will do, and the moment he checks the code in, that's it. उसे और कुछ नहीं करना है. वो automatically CI pipeline उसको उठाएगा, उसको build करेगा, build करके उसको docker image बनाएगा, docker image को push करेगा, फिर उसको आप test करोगे, फिर उसको deploy करोगे. फॉर नाउ वी आर ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट बिल्ड. आज हम केवल बिल्ड के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, हम टेस्ट के बारे में बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम डिप्लॉय के बारे में बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. बट इवेंचुअली दिस इज ऑल्सो वॉट यू विल हैव टू लर्न हाउ टू डू इट. डिप्लॉय मीन्स कहीं पर रन करना पड़ेगा. आज हमारे पास, आज की डेट में हमारे पास कोई सर्वर नहीं है. हमारा सारा एनवायरमेंट लोकल है, हम सब लोकल ट्राई कर रहे हैं अभी तक. सो सर्वर हमें कुछ चाहिए पड़ेगा, तब हम डिप्लॉय कर पाएंगे, इसलिए हम अभी डिप्लॉय नहीं कर रहे हैं. अभी हमारे पास केवल बिल्ड करने की कैपेबिलिटी है, कैपेसिटी है, दैट्स व्हाट वी आर डूइंग. सो बिल्ड इज व्हाट वी आर डूइंग. सो स्टेजेस मीन्स क्या क्या स्टेज आपको अपनी पाइपलाइन में चाहिए. फॉर नाउ आई नीड बिल्ड, टेस्ट एंड डिप्लॉय, एंड दीज माइनस साइन मीन्स लिस्ट. सो लिस्ट सबसे पहले पॉइंट 1, पॉइंट 2, पॉइंट 3. सो पहले बिल्ड होगा, फिर टेस्ट होगा, फिर डिप्लॉय होगा. इसके नीचे आई हैव रिटन फ्यू मोर थिंग्स, राइट. दीज थिंग्स आर कॉल्ड एज जॉब्स. So the CI pipeline, जो GitLab की CI pipeline है, it is divided into two parts. One is stages, second is jobs. So stages is this, क्या क्या stages आपको रन करनी है. तो मैंने stages का कीवर्ड लिखा, उसके अंदर अपने नाम, अपने हिसाब से वर्ड्स लिख दिए, build, test and deploy. Then I have to put कि हर एक stage में क्या करना है. Every stage what you will do. So in this build stage, I want to run 3 jobs. These are my jobs, and inside these jobs I need to mention ये job किस स्टेज में रन होगा. ओके, सो आई एम सेइंग दिस जॉब विल रन इन दिस जॉब विल रन इन स्टेज बिल्ड, दिस जॉब इज आल्सो रन इन स्टेज बिल्ड. सो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर इज बिल्ड स्टेज पर ही 3 जॉब्स रन होंगे. सो स्टेज बिल्ड ये है, जब वो इस स्टेज पे आएगा तो ये भी रन होगा, ये स्टेज पे ये जॉब भी रन होगा, ये स्टेज पे ये जॉब भी रन होगा. तो 3 जॉब्स पैरेलली रन होंगे. ओके, एंड मैं कर क्या रहा हूँ 3 स्टेज में, एग्जैक्टली वही जो मैं पहले कर रहा था इन ऑन माई लोकल. आई एम रनिंग 3 कमांड्स. डॉकर लॉगिन जरूरी है टू ऑथेंटिकेट दैट जो भी चीज़ बिल्ड हो रही है वो कौन पुश कर रहा है, किसके ऑथेंटिकेशन से वो पुश होगी. सो आई हैव रिटन डॉकर लॉगिन एज -u यूजर, पासवर्ड एज पासवर्ड, एंड हियर आई हैव रिटन डॉकर हब यूजर नेम एंड डॉकर हब टोकन, बिकॉज दीज 2 थिंग्स आई कैन नॉट हार्ड कोड, बिकॉज यहाँ से दिख जाएगा किसी को भी, बिकॉज माई repository is open, anyone can see gitlab.yaml file from here. So I cannot afford to put username password, so I need to use some variables. Okay, so what I've done, पहले तो मुझे यूजरनेम तो मुझे पता है और मेरे को पासवर्ड भी पता है, क्योंकि आपके पास लॉगिन होना चाहिए यहाँ का, राइट. अगर आपको पासवर्ड नहीं यूज करना है तो यू कैन ऑल्सो यूज सम टोकन्स. ओके, टोकन कैन बी जनरेटेड फ्रॉम हियर. So access tokens, you can generate your own token, new access token create करो and give it a name and it will generate something for you. You can generate, it will create a password. Token are nothing but a temporary password, ताकि आपको temporary password, अपना actual password use ना करना पड़े. Once you get that token, you come here, you go to settings, CI/CD, and you can create a variable from here. So here I have created 2 variables, docker hub tokens, docker hub username. एंड दोनों की वैल्यूज मैंने यहाँ पे रख दी है. वो दिखते नहीं है, दिखेंगे नहीं, इट विल जस्ट बी केप्ट हियर लाइक दिस, एंड दिस आई कैन एक्सेस डायरेक्टली इन माई पाइपलाइन फाइल. सो दिस इज बेसिकली व्हाट आई हैव डन हियर. ओके, नॉट हियर, सॉरी, हियर. डॉकर हब यूजरनेम, डॉकर हब टोकन. सो डॉकर लॉगिन इज माई फर्स्ट स्टेप. सेकेंड स्टेप इज डॉकर बिल्ड, एंड थर्ड स्टेप इज डॉकर पुश. ओके, डॉकर बिल्ड अभी मैंने करके दिखाया लोकल पे, बट अब मैं लोकल नहीं करना चाहता, मैं चाहता मेरी पाइपलाइन इस चीज़ को करे, राइट. सो आई हैव रिटन डॉकर बिल्ड एंड डॉकर पुश. एज यू नो, आई नीड टू पुश इट टू द डॉकर हब. डॉकर हब कहाँ पर है, यहाँ पर है, मुझे यहाँ पुश करना है. ओके, सो दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव डन फॉर बिल्ड अपॉइंटमेंट्स API, दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव डन फॉर पेशेंट API, दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई हैव डन फॉर डॉक्टर API. एग्जैक्टली 3 थिंग्स विच जो ऑटोमेटिकली रन होगा. Okay, how do I run this? There are two ways. मैंने इसमें automatic का setting किया हुआ है. So every time there is a change, a small change happen, it will automatically, the pipeline will automatically run. Let's see how. So if I go here and if I say changed appointment API. ओके पुश. जैसे ही मैं पुश करूंगा इमीडिएटली CI पाइपलाइन में ऑटोमेटिकली बिल्ड स्टार्ट हो जाएगा. इफ आई जस्ट रिफ्रेश दिस, you see the pipeline has started. And what is happening inside pipeline? If I go to running, I get to see 3 jobs are automatically triggered. Okay, if I go inside these, I'll get to see what is happening inside. So अब वो अंदर क्या हो रहा है उसका log generate करके दिखाएगा. वो कह रहा है कि I am using this executor, this is a docker 2010 16, ये एक docker image है जो उसको use करनी है. So वो उसको download करके pull कर रहा होगा at this moment. Okay, let's continue to watch it. Let's see again, refresh it. Okay, 3 jobs running at the moment. If I go again to one of them. Okay, so it's running now. It started running, so you can see the steps. So मैंने docker info लिखा हुआ था. If you remember, I wrote something like docker info in my job. Docker info. So now it is running docker info. Docker info run किया उसने सब दिखा रहा है what kind of docker instance it has. Then docker login. So because it was docker login, then docker build, then this docker build, and then docker push. It will, so docker build is still happening because docker build we have to do a lot of things, right? We download the dependencies and it will do things this and that. It is right not doing this. So this is how automatically I am doing things, and so that I don't have to do it manually. Okay, and eventually the result of all this will be that जो भी change है उस change का नया docker उस change का नया docker artifact बनेगा and वो docker push हो जाएगा मेरी repository में, which is here. Okay, and then anyone, and when I say anyone means it could be a cluster जहाँ पे actual run होगा, या कोई दूसरे बंदे मेरी image को use करना चाहते हैं, even they can use it. So that part we see later, because eventually हमको deploy करना है. We need to learn to deploy it somewhere, either on a server or we create our own server locally to test this. Okay, that part we'll try to do tomorrow. Sorry, the next week. But for now, all we'll learn is the building part using CI/CD pipeline. Okay, let it quickly build so that I could show you one more thing called as Docker Compose, which is this one. So meanwhile it builds, I will actually continue to talk about Docker Compose. Okay, so now the next part is the build, sorry, the deploy part. Okay, so deploy कैसे होगा? Deploy के लिए हमें, as I said, हमें server चाहिए. We need a server where it deploys. For at this moment we don't have a server. Okay, so how we test whether my application works together? How will I test whether these 3 containers which are there work in synergy with each other as a single application, right? उसके लिए अगर ये चीज़ आपके पास सर्वर नहीं है, सो यही चीज़ को टेस्ट करने के लिए लोकल टूल्स हैं कुछ. ओके, देयर आर फ्यू लोकल टूल्स टू डू इट, बिकॉज एवरीथिंग, हर चीज़ के लिए सर्वर पे हम नहीं जा सकते, तो हमें लोकली वही का वही चीज़ लोकल पे टेस्ट करना पड़ता है. ओके, टू डू दैट यू हैव फ्यू यूटिलिटीज एट योर डिस्पोजल. One of such utilities called as Docker Compose. So Docker Compose has instructions where it can run multiple Docker images as a containers and connect them together, so that you can actually see whether जब आप उनको साथ में चला रहे हो तो ठीक से चल रहा है क्या. Okay, so this is what you have. Services, Docker Compose की फाइल की बहुत सिंपल होती है. You have services, and then you mention each of the component which you want to run. So I want to run 3 component. One is appointments API, second is doctor API, third is patient API. So I'm saying appointments, and then I'm mentioning what image. And here I mentioned doctor IO 333743 appointments API latest. Okay, what it will do is it will try to download this specific thing from this location, which is public. So I have this location present here. Okay, let me go to repositories. So I have three, if you see, I have three such repositories: doctor API, appointments API, patient API, and this is what I have. So I have written here image as this, and then I am passing an environment variable with some profile, and I'll explain what this profile is. Okay, then I'm saying I want to run this in ports. Restart always, network as backend. So I've created a network called as backend, and from this, all these three APIs will be connected together. Okay, same I have done this for Docker, same I have done this for patient. Okay, fine. Let me quickly explain this environment part. Now the thing is, if I go to my appointments API and I go to resources, I don't have one application.yaml file. Now I have three. Okay, this is also the change which I recently did. So the application.yaml, I have some settings, and I'm saying my profiles active is local. This local means this one. So when I say application-local.yaml, I mean this file. Spring profiles active local means I also want to load this file along with this file. Okay, so I have mentioned here application-local spring profiles local. Why I am doing this? Because when I am running things on local, I want to activate local spring profile. That means I want to activate my doctor API URL is this, my patient API URL is localhost this. But if I am running on Docker Compose, then my URL, external URL will look like this, not the local host. Okay, why? Because in my Docker Compose file, I have this as act as my name of my API, the server name of my specific component in Docker Compose is actually this and not the local host. So if I want to access anything from appointments API to the doctor API, I want to access it using HTTP doctor and 8083 and not HTTP localhost 8083. It will not be available there. Okay, so my point is, if I, let's say, do this, for example, then I also have to mention the same thing here, because then this API will be accessible on this server and not the other one, not the local host. Okay, let me remove this quickly, and I will show you example of this also in a minute. If I just remove this also. Okay, so these are my three components I mentioned in the Docker Compose file, something like this. This will pull the image from here, and the environment, I want to say Spring profiles active. I want to activate the profile Docker so that my external APIs are this and not the local host, not this, because I don't want this. I only want this when I run it from IntelliJ. I don't want this when I run it from from Docker Compose. So I'm saying in my Docker Compose file that when this container is created, I want to activate the profile Docker, and then Spring automatically, while it brings up the application, it will use this as the application configuration file, where when appointment API try to access the doctor API, it will hit doctor http://doctor and not http:// localhost. It will do this and not the localhost. So that is the goal of putting Spring profiles active. Ports, when you want to run the image, you want to use ports like this. Okay, and same goes with the doctor, and same thing goes with the patient. Okay, now let's run this. So let me go and quickly check whether it's built or not. If I go to pipelines, the job is succeeded. The image is also being pushed. Just 5 minutes ago, all these three images are actually pushed again. Now I'm using the same name for the tag again and again and again. It's not a good practice, because for every release there has to be a new image created with the new image tag name. But for simplicity's sake, I'm not going there. I'm always using latest tag, only one kind of tag, and that's what I'm putting here also. Okay, now let's run this. So before you run this, it's always advisable to say Docker Compose pull, and this will actually pull the latest images basically from here. So it's now pulling few of these things. It's downloading because it has checked that there are new changes. There are new changes in the repository, Docker repository. So it's downloading that. Okay, pull complete, and now I can say Docker compose up. Simple command you have to run, Docker compose up, and it will start creating the container out of the images, which are these. Okay, so it will download all that. Okay, I can show you the Docker desktop also, the dashboard. So this is my dashboard. If I go to containers, it's saying it is running these three. Okay, and if you see, it is accessible on these ports. If I, let's say, open this one, or if I, let's say, open this one, and I say something like this, now my application is up and running. All three applications are actually up and running. I think there is some problem with appointments API. It's kept on, running and restarting. Let's see why, because I think there are some changes we may have done in the beginning. What is the error? So there is some error with this, basically with the profile part. Maybe I may have made some mistake there, but then I'll go and fix this and check in the code again. But this is how basically you run all the three applications together using Docker.
Yes.
Yes. Any questions? Redamai, you are unmuted again. Okay, fine. Okay, so it's keep on restarting because of some error coming again and again from here, originating from appointment service. Fine. So I'll fix this. I'll see what the error is, and then I'll comment the code again. But this is how you need to try things. Okay, and eventually what we will have is we will have a front end also here. So the goal is the Docker Compose can run your whole application together. So there will be three APIs, and then we will have our front end. Front end also we will create the same thing. We'll create a Docker file for it. We'll do a build of it. We'll push it, and then it can be downloaded here and can also get executed together as a single application. Okay. All right. Any questions? Because I don't have any other topic to cover today.